Hey guys, what's up? Caleb Downing here, and today we're talking Griffin armament, but not suppressors. We're talking optics. In this case, this is their 1-10x28 second focal plane rifle scope. Let's get into it. Let's talk about specs, features, and go shoot it, and then we'll give our 2 cents on it. Let's check it out. Alright, so disclaimers as always. Griffin has been very kind to me and has sent this thing out for review. I requested it from them, and this might be the last scope that they send me because this, admittedly, is a little out of my wheelhouse as far as what I am really comfortable reviewing. I love reviewing suppressors and firearms and some gear-related stuff in that field. Red dots and stuff, I feel comfortable giving my thoughts on that. Rifle scopes like this this is about in the $400 to $500 range. That's kind of the MSRP right around in there. I know what I look for in these optics, and this is what I'm going to give. Is after we give our specs and data and stuff, I'll give my opinion on this. But I am not a long-range shooter. I'm not a precision shooter, meaning I don't go out there and try to, wail on steel at 1,000 yards. I've never been able to shoot out at 1,000 yards. I've never been able to do that. Never had the opportunity to even try. And so I don't have like bench guns. I don't know the world and nuances of rifle glass clarity, all the features and functions of a rifle scope like I might be more comfortable with, say, suppressors or a lot of firearms that you see behind me. So take what I say with a grain of salt. If I have some issues with some of these things, like I'm going to show, like some of the clarity issues that I have, that is coming from somebody that is not extremely well versed in this world. Okay, so take what I say with a grain of salt on all those accounts, and just take this for what it's worth. A layman, a simple dude that likes guns, who picks up this optic and checks it out. What do I get out of it? What's the values that I see on it, and some of the pros and cons. So hopefully that was enough to kind of lay the groundwork for what we're doing. I'm not the expert in this field. Don't look at this as the end-all, be-all kind of thing. There's other people out there that know a lot more about this than I do. And if you have experience with these scopes, please chime in. If you've got personal experience with these things, chime in and let us all learn from your experience. All right? So let's go over some specs and data. As always, we're going to kind of keep this in the same format that we usually do. So specs, data, we'll go shoot it, talk about it, and then we'll come back here and do our wrap up. All right? So specs and data, let's check it out. All right, so we're basically pulling this straight off of their website. The stuff you get in the box is you'll get the rifle scope itself. You'll get some flip-up caps, a 2032 battery, microfiber cloth, and an instruction card. Our main features are a red or green illuminated reticle. Ours is red. We've got a glass-etched mil-radian reticle, which is very nice. I do like that. 12 brightness settings and 12 off positions. I'll describe that in a second. It is a 28mm objective lens, 1/10 milrad adjustments, increments, there you go, 34mm tube, and a 3.5-inch or 90mm eye relief. Some other specific specs are the length is given at 10.8 inches, tube diameter, like we said earlier, 34mm. Knob width is 3.11 inches. That's the distance right here from right here. I had to measure that. That actually is 3.11 inches. Magnification is 1 to 10 power. There's some other specs. I'll throw it up there for you guys. You can read through that if you want to. But those are the main features that I wanted to point out that I thought most of you guys would find interesting. And there's more information on the website. Go look up their website, griffinarmament.com. I think is what it is. And you can find this stuff very, very easily. All right. So, like we said, stuff that comes in the box. I have the box somewhere. Right. So the box, obviously, you get the box itself. There we go. There's our little card that it talks about that had the battery in it, and I specifically got, I think mine was a refurbished model because they sent it to me for free, so I don't think I had the cleaning cloth and stuff with it. But if you buy one of these, you're not going to get a refurbished one, you're going to get a new one, which would feature all the things that I read off in the little spec sheets there for you. Okay, let's get that up there. All right, so one of the big features that stood out to me, or features, designs, things that stood out to me about this when I first picked it up, is it does seem large. It seems very large. These turrets are huge. We said the width of the turrets was 3.11 inches, which is true. I actually pulled that out because I was like, there's no way that's 3.11 inches. Sure enough, that from here to here, that's 3.11 inches. So that's pretty wide. But there's advantages to that. And they kind of spell this out on the website. When you're behind the gun, looking, just over in your peripheral or just, you know, moving your eye just a little bit, you can easily see which adjustment, which setting you're on, whether that be your windage and elevation or over here on the side, your illumination settings. We kind of said we hit illumination settings. They said they have 12 settings, and that include, well, 12 settings plus 12 off settings. So between each of your illumination settings, there's an off setting, which is nice because you can just easily figure out which adjustment, which setting you want it on, super bright, super dim, whatever it might be, and then just go one way or the other to turn the illumination off, which I would say make sure you turn the illumination off because you'll burn out your batteries pretty quick if you don't. But turn that illumination off, and then whenever you're ready for illumination, you're just one click away instead of having to cycle through the whole thing. It's just a little attention to detail thing, but it's nice. It is actually very nice. The turret, since we're already talking about those, 1/10 adjustments, so precise adjustments. Again, outside of my wheelhouse, I don't remember what normal adjustments are. I remember my first good scope was a loophole, right? And it didn't have clicks at all. It was just a free spinning turret, and you just kind of got to figure it out. So that was interesting. Nowadays, we have a lot more clicky adjusty turrets, and this does have slight tactile and audible adjustments. You can lock this thing out. Obviously I moved it, but you can lock this thing out. So if this is locked out at 0, right, or no, not at 0, because I think it goes 7. You can go 7 beyond your lockout. So go back to 0, you push the optic or the turret down, and now he's locked in. So they mentioned this again on the website. So this is a very nice thing. This is super nice for optics that you're going to actually utilize to dial things in. You want to be able to return to 0 quickly and easily without having to think about it. You should easily be able to do that. And with this feature, it's easy. I think I'll have an explanation in the field and kind of show you how to do it. But you can easily dial this thing in, 0 it, pull your whole, the top turret piece off and reset your adjustments so that you can adjust back to 0. You can reset your 0 stop, if that makes sense, which is nice. It's not really hard to do. It's pretty simple, pretty easy. Just follow the procedure and you'll be fine. The side has that feature too, as far as being able to pull it out, do your adjustments, push it back in, and it'll lock. That is very nice. Very nice, especially if you're utilizing this for anything where you might be moving around. This might be in a case. You don't want stuff to be bumping around and messing with your 0. You want to be able to have that feature to lock everything out. The mount itself is another thing. The mount doesn't come with the optic. The optic comes by itself, like most optics these days. The scope mount is a little bit different. All right, I had to pull up the specs on this guy too. So I'll set this guy to the side a little bit. Comes in your box. Inside your box, pretty straightforward, explanatory. You've got your mount itself. I can't talk today. You have your mount itself, your mounting hardware, your screws and all that stuff, and your Allen key and your instruction manual. So there's nothing really super special there. But the GPM stands for, make sure I get this thing right, the Griffin Precision Mount. It also utilizes the Griffin Micro Sight Series plates, right? Now it doesn't come with those plates, or at least I didn't get those plates. But you can buy them separately, and what that is what all these little circle cutout things on the side are for. So what this allows you to do is to mount in different spots, wherever you might need it, an offset red dot, or something like that, or any other, I don't even know what other accessory you would have on here aside from a red dot. But as a backup, or even if you're dialed into a 10, on your settings and you want to utilize just a simple red dot to get on target quickly, that's another thing that some people do, you can mount those plates. You can get those plates separately for different optics. They got a whole bunch of different ones for RMR and Venom, and I don't remember all the other ones, but your regularly available red dot mount patterns, footprints, they have little plates for those. So you can set those in these different spots depending on where you need them, depending on where you want them, depending on what function you're trying to use them for. That is nice, right? That is very nice. I believe it is 61 aluminum, I believe, the base, the mount itself. It's thick, it's robust. The mount itself is not exceptionally heavy. The scope itself is a little heavy. It's a little over 2 pounds. I think it's 2 pounds, 1.4 ounces, I think is what I measured it at. That's the whole thing, the scope and the mount itself. So the whole thing is a little over 2 pounds. So it is a little heavy. Maybe not something you want to be running around with all the time, because that does seem to be a little bit heavy. But sometime you got to weigh your option, or weigh your needs. The robustness of this scope, I think, is where that weight comes in, right? It's a heavy-duty scope. That's my opinion. That's been my experience with it. Even when I've had this thing in the case, whenever I put my guns in the case and go to the range and drive back and forth and bounce all over the back roads trying to get up to where I'm going to, I have all my guns in the case. They just all bang around and smash into each other. And there's some big dings and bangs on the scope in general, and I have not had it lose zero. So that's one little part, one little reason. Part of it's laziness, why I just throw everything in a big box. Part of it is also just continued testing to see if things lose zero when they bounce around and bang into other hard metal objects. And so far, this mount and scope combo, it doesn't lose zero. It's very robust, it's very solid, and I think that's where that weight is an acceptable thing to have. I didn't say that quite right. I think having the weight to durability ratio, that's where I'm willing to sacrifice the weight and say, okay, I'll have more weight if I have more durability. For some instances that's good. For some instances, having a lot of weight can be a little bit taxing, right? So I brought this thing out whenever I originally got it. I had it set up on my Q-Fix. I don't think I have anything on here right now. No, I had this set up on my Q-Fix in 8.6 and brought this thing out moose hunting. Unfortunately, I didn't see any moose, didn't shoot any moose, but I toted this thing around all the time. Now, the Q-Fix is a very lightweight rifle. I can't remember what it weighs off the top of my head, but this is a very lightweight rifle. When you add on the scope, it feels like you double the weight of the whole system because the Fix is very lightweight. The scope is a little bit heavy, so now it's a little bit heavier. You add ammo in the magazine and a suppressor on the front. Now it's about the same weight as a regular full-size gun, even though this is a short little SBR. So there's different reasons for having a lot of weight. There's different trade-offs for having a lot of weight. It is very robust and very durable, but if you're going to be toting something around all day, having a heavyweight scope, you just got to weigh your options. Is it worth it? That's up to you. All right, but for me, it was worth it. It was fine because I had heavy scope on a lightweight gun. It all came out in the wash and it all worked fine. Anyway, that's your main specs and data that I can give you. If you want more specific information, go over to Griffin's website. Go watch their stuff on it. They actually have, I'll link it if I can. I'm not sure if I can or not, but I think I can link their installation video where they talk specifically about the mount. And I can link that down somewhere, and you can go look at that if you want to know specific stuff on that. Again, because that's their wheelhouse, not mine, so I'll let them deal with that. Let's go shoot this thing a little bit, and then we'll come back here and give the rest of our 2 cents, maybe the other 1 cent that's left. Alright, so my footage did not quite make it. I was trying to have different camera angles, and it didn't quite work out. We got this camera angle, which is a little bit more interesting to look at, but basically what I'm doing here is I'm shooting right at 100 yards. I figured that would be a really just solid data point yardage to do this at. And so basically I'm scooted up all the way back on the range at 100 yards. And I'm shooting at a target, obviously, and I'm zeroed on the target, and then I'm going to adjust my reticles, my windage and my elevation about 6 mils or 6 MOA or 6 something. Just a big movement, a large noticeable movement to the right, and then I go that same large movement or double that movement to the left, and then I go back center, and I go all the way to the top, right? Big, huge, gross movement to the top, and then a gross movement down. And then at the end, I return back to my original zero, as far as the turrets can tell me, and fire another group. The whole point of this exercise, or this test, was to see if the optic can do all those gross movements, large movements, left and right, up and down, and finally return to zero. That's what we're trying to tell, that's what we're trying to see, and the target footage did not quite make it, but the end results, that's what we're going to show you right now. Okay, so here we go. This test, I don't know how well this turned out, if you were able to see everything, but what I did, if I didn't explain it very well before, is I took this scope, put it on the Mark 12. We were shooting 55 grain. I don't remember where it's from, but it was some quality. It's the same ammo I ran in the tactical games years ago whenever I did that, right? So it's just good ammo that I got, 55 grain, full metal jacket, nothing fancy, but good quality stuff. I honestly can't remember where I got it. There's no name on the box. But I figured that would be a more quality ammo than just trying to run my cheapest, steel case stuff that I still have left. And I didn't want to shoot my Mark 262 clone ammo just because that's expensive. But I figured this would give us a good enough representation of what this can do. Now this test was basically testing the turrets, the return to 0. So if the scope is mounted properly to the mount and the mount is mounted properly to the rifle, those should be able to be weighed out as far as variables if you have a shift in 0, right? I'm not gonna drop this. This is not a drop test kind of thing, so I'm not gonna do that. So some realistic things that you can look for in quality, or that I look for, is the turret's return to 0. So I zeroed this guy at 25, backed it up. That's why I was back there. I backed it up to 100, right at 100, used the little rangefinder and everything. It was a little bit of a weird position because at first I was standing. That's when I zeroed. I was standing, which is not great to do at 100 yards with a rifle. And then for the test portion, I got in a seated position and was a little bit more stable. I was shooting off of a tripod. I tried to weigh out as many variables as possible, taking my time. We were picking up some mirage, so sometimes I just have to take a break and just let everything cool off a little bit because it is 33 degrees. Nice and warm. Anyway, so what we did, we had our initial 0, which hopefully the video can show because I took it with the iPhone. Initial 0 was in here. I could see the hits. One thing I will say is maybe it's just I'm not using things properly. It's hard for me to get my parallax adjusted really well to where I can clearly see the paper, clearly see the reticle. There seems to be a little bit of frustration there as far as me, and maybe I just got bad eyes, I'm not sure. But I was able to see that I was getting my hits, my 0 was functional for what I'm trying to do. Then I went too far. Basically, I adjusted my 0, just turned the reticle, I think it was about 3 MOA over this way, and I shot off the paper. I couldn't see that I shot off the paper, but I shot off the paper. My point of aim constantly is right here at the dot. All right, then I returned my 0 and then went the other way. I think it was another 3 MOA. Again, shot off the paper. I should have just done little bits, but I wanted to see a drastic result, and hopefully you can see there's a drastic result. So I went off the paper. Then I returned the reticles, I returned the turrets back to where they were supposed to be. Now I dropped down, I think it was 3 MOA, which would give us, I mean, that would just take, yeah, there's a shot right there. So I was just off paper on these left and right, okay? But at 3 MOA down, I believe it was 3 MOA, shot a group, again, constant point of aim right here, returned the turrets to 0, and then I did 6, stupid me, I don't know why, I did 6, I just tried to get a big adjustment in there, 6 MOA up, I adjusted my turret, fired another 3 rounds, off paper you can't see, so there's no way to tell, but that's really frustrating, that's on me, that's my bad. And then I returned the turrets back to their original 0, what they were supposed to be, and fired, I think it was 5 rounds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 5 rounds. 5 plus 3 is 8. I'm homeschooled. But as you can hopefully tell, as you can hopefully see, given the fact that this is 55 grain ammo, it's good ammo, it's not the best. We are at 100 yards, so we should have holes in holes. This is a little bit large of a group for a Mark 12. It is cold, and I do have mirage, and I'm sitting in a weird snowy position. So if you take out some of those variables and you imagine tightening everything up just a little bit as far as quality of everything, I think if you remove that, you can definitely see, I wish these shots were on paper, but you can definitely see that the turrets, the scope itself did its job, and that speaks of quality, in my opinion, that we were able to 0, move everything around, up, down, left, right, all around, and put everything back where it needed to go as far as the turrets, and just fire a 5-round group and get that. I'm happy with that. Again, to me, that speaks of quality. That's a good test, in my opinion, that you should be able to adjust things and bring it back to 0, because cheap budget optics don't necessarily do that. All right, so I'm gonna try to show you here how you can reset your 0 stop. On the top of these turrets, on the side and on the top, it's a slotted section, so you could use a coin, the back of a piece of brass. Just be careful, it is aluminum from what I can tell, so if you go too crazy on it, you could scratch and ding it up. I've scratched up mine, but it's still totally serviceable. But you unscrew this top piece here. Once you get it done, you can use some thumb pressure to get it out. It's just some coarser threads, not very many of them. Set this guy aside so you don't lose it. All right, and then you're gonna take off, lift up your turret. Okay, so the turret comes off. I've already have the turret stop or the zero stop installed, but I'll show you what it looks like. It's this ring, right? So it's this little ring right here. It comes in your box. Don't lose this thing if you want to use zero stop. It's got some markings on it. You've got one side that's almost all milled out. You got one side that just has a little section here. This little section here goes down. On the top of your firearm, on the top of your scope, you'll have a little detent. That's where that little cutout goes. And it gives you, you know, it says 0 scale line, and there's a line on the scope itself on the bottom that you're gonna line everything up with. And as long as everything's lined up with, it's fine, right? So he's set down in there just like that. All right, so once everything's lined up on here, right, so you have your lines lined up, you're gonna take your 0 on your top turret, line that straight up with your notch, or not really a notch, but there's a white little dot down here, and push straight down from the top as best you can. And if everything is lined up properly, you just got to be very careful you don't adjust anything on the way down, but kind of move it a little bit, and it should, there we go, pop right into place just like that. If it popped into place just like that, then you're good. Then you take your scope cap, retention screw, whatever they call it, I'm not sure. And it is O-ring sealed, so you should be sealed up everything that way. Just work it in by hand, get your tool, whatever that might be, this is a piece of brass, and just kind of tighten it a little bit. That's it. I'm already scratching everything up and marring things up on mine, so just be careful. Don't go crazy with this thing. It's not like this is going to wiggle its way out. Just make sure it's snug. Now this guy is zeroed in, he's locked in. If you need to adjust anything, you pull up. You can make your tactile audible adjustments. You only have about a half mil, I think is what it would be, adjustment. What would that be, up? Yeah, no, technically that'd be down. I always get it mixed up. But you only have about a half a mil adjustment before that stop activates. So you're gonna go back to 0, and you're going to push down and lock it in, make sure it's on the correct notch. So you go, that's how you reset your scope cap, 0 stop. I know it's kind of complicated, whatever, but just to show you, you can do it, and you can do it in the field. It's possible, can be done. It's really not that big a deal. Just be very, very, very careful. All right, so my 2 cents. I already gave most of it, and I'll probably just reiterate it real quick, and then we'll call it good. My 2 cents is this is a heavy-duty suppressor. It's not a suppressor. This is a heavy-duty scope, right? It's made to be robust. It's not made to be a lightweight, you know, run all over the place optic. This is a heavy-duty, strong, solid. Can't think of any more adjectives to describe this thing. It's a quality piece of gear, I'll say that. My one downside that I've had with this is, and I think this is just me, getting a very good crisp sight picture, right? Because this is why I know I'm 99% sure this is just me, getting a very crisp, clean picture of my target, and then having a crisp, clean image of the reticle over top of it. There's always seems to be one or the other, and that's where I know I'm probably just not doing something properly. Because some optics, I've been able to achieve that, you know, relatively easily, having a crisp, clean optic and a crisp, clean background. Sometimes it's very easy to achieve. I've adjusted with the, you know, the aperture back here, and I get almost there, but it's not always exactly right. I know you're not supposed to stare at your reticle. You know, you're supposed to stare at your target, superimpose things, do all that stuff. So for me, that's the one little thing that I just never was able to quite get, was a crisp, clean picture of my target and a crisp, clean picture of my reticle at the same time, okay? Granted, I'm sure I'm probably doing something wrong, so I'm giving it I'm just leaving there as it is. I'm not judging everything on that one fact alone. Aside from that one little thing, yes, it's heavy, but it's durable. It's tracking. That's what we did all that shooting and stuff about. Its tracking was on point. I really like that. To me, that speaks very, very highly of quality. The quality of the internals. Again, the fact that this thing has bounced around all over the place. And then after all that, we went and did the reticle testing, to where we zeroed this guy, and then we went up 6 mils and down 6 mils, left and right, and went all over the place, and then we returned to 0, and our return to 0 was spot on. So for me, that speaks very highly of quality, and that's why I'm saying I think it's a me problem with that picture quality, because I don't think that they would do this portion, which I think would be harder, and get this like a 10 out of 10, and then somehow skimp out on your adjustments on your eye relief or something. I think it's just a me problem. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. That's my 2 cents. So for about, the MSRP is right between like $400 to $500 in there somewhere. This is not your cheapy budget optic. This is also not your, you know, multi-$1,000 optic budget thing out there. This, I think, would be for somebody who wants an optic that's going to last a long time. It's got great customer service. You're going to have a great warranty with it. You just kind of want to buy once, cry once, and call it good, and not have a Burris, whatever. Not that Burris is terrible, but you know, a Walmart budget optic. You want something quality, something that's going to last, and something that's going to be really good as far as your adjustments, return to zero, and all that. I don't think you're going to go wrong with this. I think you're going to be very happy with it. And probably do better than me as far as reading instructions and looking up videos on your eye relief. Or it's not really eye relief, your sight picture, your adjustments back here. I think you'll be happy with it, all right? Do better than me on that, and I think you'll be very, very happy. Anyway, I want to thank Griffin for sending this thing out. I hope I did it justice. Explained it the best that I could, gave my perspective on it. Maybe didn't hit every single feature out there. But again, if any of you guys have experience with Griffin optics, I would love to hear back from you. Do you have any similar experiences? Am I doing something completely wrong, or do you have different experiences, good, bad, ugly? Sharing that information, that's what YouTube is for, in my opinion. That's what this whole channel is for, is giving people's personal use opinion on things. Because a company can say something, but when then I would take what all the customers say a little bit over what the company says. Right? So that's why we get out here and make videos and give honest, in the field opinions on stuff and experiences on stuff to actually see how the products perform. All right, enough words, enough talking. If you stayed around this long, you're awesome. If you stayed around this long, then maybe you appreciate the content. And if you do, we did just start a join thing, a membership deal. So if you want to join membership stuff, and that gives you early access to videos, or if you want to jump over on Patreon, you can join us over there again for the same content as far as early release stuff and some additional content over there. Or if you really want to support us, go buy some merch. We have links to all that stuff or whatever. Enough of that stuff. All right, y'all be good to be safe. I appreciate you guys, and hopefully we'll catch you in the next video. See you. Nice little bonus feature too, you got these scope caps, right? So the front scope cap, you push it down, it can go flat against the handguard. This rear one, when it comes down on the back here, it just covers up your bolt, which is fine, to be quite honest with you. This is a fix, but I would think that it would work on most other bolt actions out there. And the benefit is that this does not get in the way at all of the action. You can run the action, you can move it all over the place, and this thing's not gonna get in the way. This is not out to the side to where it's occluding, or is that the right word? It's obscuring your peripheral vision. It's you know, blocking things. You don't want that. If you have it straight up, then you'd be blocking your turrets. Have it straight down, especially on this particular one, and it's just out of the way. You're never gonna notice it. It's not impeding anything. It's actually pretty cool. And you could, if you needed to, get some dope and put it right here. And when you're in your shooting position, you can just adjust your eyes down, look at your dope, and it's just right there in front of you. Pretty stinking cool. If they were smart, if they paid just a little extra bit of attention to detail, Griffin could have included maybe some dope cards, which would have been really cool to put inside that that cover. That would have been cool. They didn't, but it's easy enough to do. Anybody can do it. Just get a piece of paper and put it in there. Anyway, cool little factoid.